Hi, my name's Phi Thuy Nguyen, founder of Agame Yoga and Meditation Center, and the now 501c3 for-purpose organization, Ambassadors of Light. Welcome to another segment of Do It Different. From parenting to business, from the bedroom to the boardroom, how you can engage in your moments differently so you can experience both success and substance to enjoy your different kind of happy. With me today is my wonderful friend Tamara Bourgeois, who has a master's in community counseling and a PhD in counseling psychology, and works locally here in Baton Rouge as a professional licensed counselor, as well as the author of 3 books. One of those books will be the focus of our Do It Different series today, which is on how to parent differently. So letting go of what you may have been conditioned to believe as parents, and really defining for yourself what parenting means for you, and empowering yourself to live from that place of parenting the way that you envision yourself to be as a parent.
I love that. I love that. Conscious parenting.
Conscious parenting.
That's exactly
Absolutely.
what the whole book is about, Fee, is conscious parenting.
Well, first, tell our audience the name of your book and where they can find it, and then we'll go into some tips and tools that Tamara has to share with you regarding how she has parented differently her 3 children and how she gets a chance to do it again with her beautiful grandbaby. Yeah.
Yes. So the name of the book is How to Raise Happy, Loving, Emotionally Intelligent Kids. It was written in 1996 and published in 1997, but you can still find it on Amazon.com. So,
wonderful. Yeah. So you're getting the real thing today. This is great. This is great. So what would you say could be 3 to 5 tips you can share with our audience as to how to parent differently?
Okay. So perhaps the most important for me, and this is something I learned along the way. It wasn't something I was taught. I was taught something differently. But what I learned was to be a shepherd for my children, and to make a distinction between shepherding my children and trying to control my children. So I have a almost 29-year-old, a couple of weeks, a 27-year-old, and a 14-year-old. And what I think that I've done most successfully as a parent, because they are all growing up to be indomitable spirits and their own people, is to act as that shepherd, to support them and love them in making their own decisions. And of course, always having that executive veto power. Right. If I thought that the decision would be too dangerous or take them too far from what I knew was important to them or the values of our family. But I always work to give them the maximum amount of decision-making power in their own lives. I would rather err on the side of a little overindulgence than underindulgence, and allow them to make the decision. So that if I think that the decision could be too costly to them, we'll talk about it, and I might pull the big parenting, you're not going to do this because I'm the parent, right? But if I think that the decision they're making could teach them a valuable lesson, even though I don't think it's the wisest decision, I might go with the opportunity for them to learn, and then be there to support them without shaming them and invalidating them, but teaching them more through curiosity and wonder. So you thought that decision was going to help you to get this, but you ended up getting that instead. What have you learned from it?
Wonderful.
Right,
so that's a really great tool from what you just shared, is really cultivating the balance to give them boundaries so that they can stay safe. Because if you felt like the decision was too dangerous or would cause too much risk or go against values too much, then you would pull out your parenting book and say, no, this will not be allowed. So it gave them boundaries, which to children is a sense of safety.
Absolutely.
And they also had the playground to explore and to make their own mistakes.
Right.
And to learn to make those decisions for themselves, with you being there to shepherd and guide. So beautiful. So as a shepherd, you're able to give them the best of both worlds.
Right. A shepherd doesn't make his sheep march in a straight line. A shepherd allows that sheep to go his own way. But if he sees the sheep is about to fall off the cliff, he's going to take his cane and he's going to shepherd him back into the herd. So
I love that image. Thank you. I hope you got that. That was really powerful first tip. So what other tips do you have for parents?
Control your ego.
Ah.
And practice yoga, meditation, tai chi,
dance,
whatever,
laugh,
whatever you need
have your own life.
To learn to control it. The ego is not a bad thing. It truly serve us, but we need to be the master of it. It can't be the master of us. And the way that might show up in parenting is that you have way too much concern about what other people think rather than what's truly in heartfelt guidance to your children. And so I say to parents all the time, don't have too much skin in the game. And that means if your child is great at math and great at science, but wants to be a dancer, and that's what their passion is, then it's your job as a parent to let them know what your opinions are, right? But to also support them in going with their dreams and passions, rather than when you say, oh, I have a child that's an engineer or a scientist. I have a child that's a dancer. I have a child that, dances part-time and works as a hairdresser part-time, or whatever it is that you have as a dream for your child, let it go and let them tell you what their hopes and dreams are. And so sometimes we have to let go of, the chokehold our ego has on trying to decide for our children what's best for them. So does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, Tamara, and thank you so much. I would love to explore a little bit more about this letting go of the ego thing as it relates to parenting, because there is a sense of me having a lot of responsibility and control as a parent to define my child's course, to influence my child's course, to know what's best for them because of my own experiences of unsuccess, right? And so out of love, we want to prevent our children from not making the same mistakes we make. And somehow that feeds the ego, and we end up trying to make and mold them into something they're not. Right. So if a child is good at math and science, like the example you gave, and whose passion is dance, even though he or she may not be as good at it, maybe that passion is what they need to really grow them, not lean to what's easy. Even though math and science is really easy. For some, right, for that specific child. But it's the passion they have that will really light their fire. And to honor that and to let go of what we think we know is best for them.
That's right. And that is so hard. Those are such easy words. They're so easy sitting here and so much harder to do. So it's a true battle often with our egos to think we know what's best for our children and to let our children as they grow tell us what they need to be happy and successful.
I love that. Yeah. And the image that comes to mind right now as I process your words is, to let go of other people's expectations as to how you should parent, or let go of other people's opinions,
like your mother's or your mother-in-law's,
right?
Yeah.
And if I were to be successful in letting go of that, what comes up in my imagery or my head is like a clean slate, so that there's no blemishes on that slate as I engage as a mother to this child, not to all my children, but just to this child, because this child is unique. And so starting with that clean slate.
And one of the ways I say that, Fee, is to examine your beliefs. That's very important as a parent, to take a look at what about my parents' parenting really worked to help me be happy and successful, and what about my parents' parenting did not help and actually may have hurt, because almost all of us parents are going to have a combination of those as we try to parent, right?
Because we're not perfect.
And so to be able to sort through those, and that's what I did when maybe back in, when my oldest son was 2, I took my first parenting class because I realized I wanted to make a conscious effort to do some things differently than my parents did. And I'm really clear they did the best they could with the knowledge they have. They didn't have parenting classes. I think they had Dr. Spock back in the 50s and early 60s, and that was it.
YouTube to spread his message, right?
That's right. Couldn't YouTube. I see my daughter, who's and my son-in-law, who are brand new parents. They YouTube everything. I love it. And then they'll listen or read different opinions and make their own based on the research they're doing. So
bringing some consciousness into your own values and starting with that clean slate, begin to write down the values on that slate as to how I want to parent consciously. And I would say forget the values that didn't work from their own parents and really focus on what works.
And don't be pressured by them to make them continue to be right about their parenting, even if they say, you should give them a good butt whipping, rather than, well, we talk about things in our home, Mom, right? So you have to be willing to stand up sometimes to people who are giving you what they consider good advice, right? So,
and I think the other, because that's a really good point, the other benefit of being conscious about the values that I'm carrying on that I learned from my parents is when that parent shows up and says, well, you should do it this way because I used to do it this way. You say, actually, Mom, I do follow some of your values. These are the values I've learned from you that I love and I'm sharing on with my children. And so that validates the mother.
Rather than an all or nothing, you were a bad parent, you did everything wrong, which we tend to do when we're inflamed and angry. We make those sweeping assessments, right?
All or nothing.
I love that, to certainly in that conversation honor what we have, learned from them that's been valuable for us.
They feel good.
I know.
And that's nice.
Yeah.
So what else? What's another tip, Tamara?
So feedback from your children as early as they're able to give it. I had a conversation with Gabriel last night. We went to eat Mexican food, and Gabriel's my 14-year-old. He's in 9th grade. And I've been real aware lately of something I've been doing that I'm not sure whether is in his best interest or not. So we sat across the table from each other at the restaurant, and I said, listen, Gabriel, this is what I'm doing. And on one hand, I think it's in your best interest, but the other hand, I'm concerned it could be causing you anger or frustration. So I need to know when I'm doing this, whether it's causing you more anger and frustration or whether it's helping you to reflect on your behavior. I need your feedback.
Yeah.
And I am going to do things as a parent that my parents did, that I'm blind to, that maybe the more anxious I am, the more those things are going to come out in me. And so I give my children permission to say, hey, you're doing that thing you said you didn't want to do. And so a lot of parents call that disrespect if a child actually gives feedback to the parents. And I think it's respectful parenting to accept feedback from our children. We have boundaries there too. You may not call me names, you may not attack my character, but I do want to know if something I'm doing is either harming you or preventing you from something that's important to you. So
I love that, Tamara. That is so powerful, to empower children's voice.
Right.
That just because they may be younger doesn't mean they don't have wisdom.
Right.
Just because we're older doesn't mean we've got it all figured out.
Right.
And it allows for connection and relationship and closeness. Right. And I just absolutely love asking for their feedback.
And here's the positive thing for parents in this. Your child will be way more receptive to your feedback if you're receptive to theirs.
Because that back and forth, that foundation is laid.
They feel respected and validated. So.
And and I think that also plays in with love in general. Sometimes we love people the way we think they want to be loved, or the way I feel comfortable showing love. It may not be the way that they want to receive that love. Right? So as a mother, I may think that I love you, so let me protect you. that may be very unloving to that child.
That's right.
And so asking for feedback allows for that dialogue and for the close relationship. Now, I, from time to time, will ask my kid, or my children, how can I love you better? And let them be in charge of how that shows up for them. Because what I have in my mind may be completely different. So that feedback keeps it very present.
Right. And you have 3 children, I have 3 children, and what love feels like to one may not be the love language of the other. So treating each of your children's needs individually as well. And one more thing I'd like to say, and I'm minding the time, is to have adoration. And the way that looks to me is that I just let my children know, my adult children as well as the ones still at home, how much I love them and how much I honor them as human beings. And I try to do it in what I call an innocent moment, where I'm just passing through the living room and maybe Gabriel's on the computer or actually doing homework, and I stop and I go, I really love you, and I am so glad I have you as a son, or I'm so glad you're here with me today. And it's in those moments, I think, that they really feel loved and valued. And that's so important. Maybe that's the most important thing of all for us to instill in them, is a sense that they are loved and adored and appreciated. And you can't just do that when they hit the home run, when they come home with the straight A's. It has to be done in a very tender moment where not too much is going on. It's good to, acknowledge them for their successes, but it's more important to acknowledge them for just them being themselves.
And that brings up a really good point, because our tendency is to only to acknowledge when they hit the home runs or bring home the straight A's, get that big job or whatever it is that, whatever age category your children may be in. It ties love to outcome. And that doesn't feel good at the core, because we know at our core love is unconditional. And to be adored and to be loved just for sitting on the sofa is really nurturing, and it just feels really good, instead of waiting for them to do something right then to express love. Makes it so conditional.
That's really well said. That's exactly what I mean. Exactly what I'm talking about.
I love it. So 4 wonderful tips for you to consider doing your parenting differently, so that your relationship to your own children reflects who you are and how you want to experience your children as parents. Just to recap, first is to shepherd.
Yes.
Second is to let go of that ego. Third is to receive feedback. Ask for feedback and be open to your children's feedback. And fourth is to adore them and do it often and do it with sincerity. Let it come from your heart.
That's right. Let it bubble up.
Bubble up.
I'd like to say.
Effervescent release of adoration and love. Tamara, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you so much. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback for us, Tamara and I would love to hear your comments, questions, and feedback. Just write them in the space below, and we will get back with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And before we end this segment, Tamara, if they were to want to contact you for a session, counseling session, how would they do it? Your focus is family and children, is that right?
Family, children, and general practice.
And general practice as well. So how would they be able to contact you?
You can call me at area code 225-753-1452, or you can Google my name, Tamara Bourgeois, and my office and number will pop up for you.
Great. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Tamara, for your wisdom.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next time. Namaste.
Bye. Namaste.